what? I'm here. I'm on time. Right? Something like that. Good evening, everybody. Wow. Where to start? Well, first we're going to start with getting my right ear to work. Hang on. I mean, my ear works, but the ear sounding device is not wanting to work. Anyway, one of these days I'll trash this headset. I don't have another headset, though, that's got the little 3.5 millimeter jacks, and unfortunately that's the only option I have, because if I use a USB headset, there's a delay. And have you ever tried talking when you hear yourself in a delay? Makes it pretty hard. Anyway, where to start? First off, I'll start with good stuff. Last night, after the show, I did as I threatened, and I went into Flight Sim for a little while and played with the aircraft that I've been looking so forward to fly. And I was successful. I was not super pleased, but I was successful. Today, I was talking this morning to I believe he's one of the developers of the aircraft. And he had, he'd said enough things to make enough sense to me to go ahead and get involved in the beta of the number 10 update. There's a SU-10 update coming out next month, and you can get into a beta ahead of time. And so I went ahead and joined the beta this morning, downloaded the update, so I could see, they more or less, I believe, had gotten the aircraft set up and ready to go for this update, since it's on the cusp of coming out, and there's a lot of changes made in it. So it was kind of a smarter move for them to do that, although I don't know how smart it was to release the aircraft before the update. I don't know how many people are having problems, but I'm one of them, and I'm not usually one to have problems. So anyway, I updated, and it didn't clear up all the problems, but it did, it made it much more manageable to deal with. It doesn't take, near as long to get in and get in the air. Well, anyway, I'll have to take you guys for a flight sometime soon, because that thing is just stupid fun. That video that I did, the live video I did the other day flying it, is nothing compared to what the full version can do. It's incredible. But anyway, that's the good stuff. It kind of sucks though, because I went in probably 3 different times today just to play around in it, and because I did update to SU-10, I don't see anybody that's still on SU-9, which is the majority of the people on the flight sim. So in other words, it's kind of eerie when you load into New York and nobody's in the air, So, and it's really boring, because I really kind of like to just pick people out and go chase them. So that's what I enjoy doing. So anyway, that's the good news. Not that I have any bad news, but before I came on, I was listening to a channel, and listening to them go on and on and on, trying to explain in depth how other people's SHTF is going to look. Don't let folks do that, because I can't tell you what SHTF is going to look for you. Nobody can. You are the only one that can even have a remote idea of what SHTF is going to look for you. Let me give an example. I'm not 100% sure what the question was that it was asked, but it had something to do with cooking. And went right into, you could have a hot plate, but you have to have a way to power the hot plate and blah, blah, blah. And then coffee came on, and he's talking about how rough it's going to be for everybody. Let me explain this. In another person's mind, your ability is going to be limited by their intelligence. Do you see what I'm saying with that? It doesn't matter how smart and resourceful you are. If they're not that smart and resourceful, they're not going to think of the solutions that you will. So don't let other people limit you that way. One of the examples that was made, that was brought up, was coffee. And he said, well, you better have a percolator because you're not going to be able to make coffee. Oh, no, I'm not? You mean I can't plug that coffee pot in there into that Delta 1300 and make myself a pot of coffee? Now, I won't do that because that's a hell of a lot of energy in order to make a pot of coffee because I do have a percolator. Yeah, and I do recommend if you like coffee, get a percolator. But the point of it is I wouldn't be out of luck just because I didn't have a percolator if I didn't have one. Plug my coffee pot into the Delta 1300. Would I do that? No. Why not? Well, because Mike's more resourceful than that. I'd break out a screwdriver. I'd pop the bottom off of the coffee pot. On the bottom of the coffee pot, without the actual bottom there, but on the underside of the coffee pot, there's going to be a heater block there. Okay? It normally has wires that run to it. It's got a heating coil in it. Power goes in, heats it up, blah, blah, blah. I can take that same coffee pot, and as long as I set it above my little bitty Coleman 533 dual fuel stove, guess what? I'm making coffee. That easy, that simple. But you have to have the resourcefulness, you have to have the knowledge, the intelligence to be able to do that. Now, if I'm relying on somebody else to tell me what my SHTF is going to look like or what I need to do during my SHTF, and they don't have that resourcefulness or that knowledge, who's the one that's out? So never let others tell you what your SHTF is going to look like. Don't let others tell you, what your limitations are going to be. Because they aren't you. I could sit there and say, oh, well, there's no need in having a fancy medical kit because, you're not a doctor and you're not going to be able to. How do I know that? And how do I know that your neighbor's not a doctor? Or that somebody in your group is not a doctor? I don't know those things. So for me to tell you, don't get that kit because what are you going to do with it? That's foolishness. Just wanted to put that out there. There are so many people. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I believe everybody's got a limit, including myself. I'm not going to rule myself out of here because I'm going to be honest, I'd be lying. But I think everybody has that number when it comes to like YouTubers. They have that number. And once they reach that number, well, then they just must have it all together. Because look. And it couldn't be any further from the case. There are more channels that have more people watching because of the drama and the train wrecks than what they do because the actual information is good. And I'm not saying they're all like that, but there are a fair amount of them like that. And, it's sad because, I always tell people there's a couple of things that turn me away from watching people's content. There's two people in the last, week or two that I quit watching. Economic Ninja. Why? He's let it go to his head. To me, this whole thing of standing in front of a green screen to get a pose pointing at something with a goofy face is vanity on level 10. Nah, not going to participate. What was that? Come out of her, my people? That means all the way. All the way. That's vanity on a level that's just insane. My opinion. You fully have the right to think differently than me. But then it's also every other title of the videos has to have SHTF in it. So it's those the combination of those two things. Nah, no longer interested. The other one that I quit watching is Tim Pool. Because I don't like people that lie and mislead. If somebody's straight with me, totally different story. Even if I can't really support your reasoning. I would rather you be straight and honest with me than to lie or mislead me. And he had a thing going on, like a daily thing, and it was Cast Castle is what it was called. One of my highlights of my day. There was very few days that I missed an episode of Cast Castle. And it was just something to take a break from everything else. And I think the guy that was doing it, his name's Nick, I think he was doing a superb job. And I think the whole concept of what they were doing was incredible. Because there were some underlying things too that, in my opinion, they were all trying to teach and bring about good things. I think it had a very positive tone to it. Until this dude named Jamie came around and started writing some episodes and turned it into some kind of reality TV thing, and then it just kind of really slid downhill. Now, they would do several of those episodes with Jamie writing, and then Nick would pop in for an episode or two back to the normal stuff. And it was kind of hard to hack the reality TV part of it. Well then, and this is where the misleading and lying comes in, Tim put out a video on Cast Castle and talked about how much money it cost to make that show. Well, I know it ain't free because, I mean, he's paying somebody to make the content. But I'm at total fail to see where this huge expense comes in to walk around an office talking to people. Where's the big expense with that? I'm at a loss. And then to top it off, he started talking about how the views, the participation of views were not up to par with what he expected. And that's why he was going to take it behind a paywall and put it as part of his website. So they're still doing it, but it's a part of his paywall on his website now, and that's the only way that you can see it. And where the lying and misleading comes in is, for one, this cost that he comes up to, this astronomical cost to produce that, number one. And number two, his reasoning that it wasn't doing so well, so he was going to take it behind the paywall? No. First off, that denies all logic. And Tim is a good businessman. He's a very good businessman. He's a genius at what he does. He took that behind the paywall because that is what is drawing people in. Plain and simple. That is what people want to watch. And I think all of his stuff that he's got going on, the only thing other than Timcast IRL that he's got that's really been successful has been Cast Castle. I don't think his Pop Culture Crisis is doing all that great. I don't think his Tales from, I don't know, I can't remember, Inverted World or something like that, I don't think that's doing super good. I think the star that really shined was Cast Castle. And that's why he took it behind the paywall. I'd have been good if he was straight about it. But it was the lying and the misleading and the... No. I can't be good with that. And I'm not saying that I would have paid a subscription thing to be... Because I wouldn't have. I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't have. Not going to do that. Especially with what they want. I mean, it's... In my opinion, it's kind of a high amount. I know a lot of people would argue that, but... I think his is like $10 a month or whatever. I wouldn't have it if I wanted to. And I'm certainly not going to fork $10 a month out for what? one show on there that I would even be remotely interested in seeing. I'm really not that interested in his after hours IRL stuff because I'm not into people's, screaming, shouting, carrying on. I'm not impressed. So, personally, I wouldn't really have anything there except for Cass Castle. But, yeah, I quit watching Tim. I watched one episode of Tim's today. That was the only thing since the day he released that video. I watched one thing today from Tim, and that was it. And that was, I only did it because it was something I really wanted to hear what he knew. And that was, hang on. Wow. My history says I did not watch it. Anyway, it was a show that he had did today. And it was talking about police leaving in droves. And, it was an episode about that. I don't know why that's not coming up in my list. Anyway, he was talking about that, and I think there's a few different factors on that. I really do. I think it's all over the board. I think some are leaving because of the lack of support. And when I say that, I'm talking specifically about the defund the police mentality. I think that some are leaving, simply because the public's looking at them a little bit differently now, especially after Uvalde. Uvalde really made a mark in a lot of people's minds. And I think that there are a fair amount of people in the profession that aren't in it for the right reasons. I think they're in it for a power trip. Not all of them. I'm not even saying remotely all of them. But you do have that aspect, and it is a sizable number. It is it's not a small amount of them. But I just don't think it's the job that it used to be, in good ways and in bad. I don't think it's the job that it used to be, and they're getting screwed over too. A lot of departments are getting screwed over with their pensions and stuff like that too, as far as I know, like the bigger cities and stuff. So there's multiple things going into it. I don't think there's any one particular reason for a mass exodus from law enforcement. I think there's multiple reasons. I don't know. I don't know, and. I don't know, like even our community here, I don't know how much it has really affected. I can tell you there is something odd that I've never seen before. And not that I care. I'm not complaining. I don't care. There's a guy about a block down all day long. They've been lighting off firecrackers and stuff. Doesn't bother me. I don't care. It's not like it's in our front yard or nothing like that. But we can hear it and stuff. I mean, not a big deal. But I find it rather intriguing that I have not saw Cop 1. And I think that's a little strange because that's not the way this town used to be. Used to be if you'd do that, about 10 minutes is about all the time you'd have. But I don't know. I find that interesting. I don't know what's up with that. Aside from all that nonsense, which was a bunch of nonsense, anything else? I got tabs open per usual. That stuff that I wanted to talk about. Let me just read real quick to see if there's anything I want to get into before that. Just kind of all over the board today. We had one hell of a rain this morning. Wow. It rained and rained and rained. When I woke up, our yard was flooded. And it let up a little bit. I mean, it was still a steady rain coming down, but not just a deluge, And then it hit again, and it was just like a monsoon, and it went on and on and on. And so it stopped. The skies have, it's partly cloudy now, or, yeah, I'd call that partly cloudy. But man, in St. Louis, they got hit like you wouldn't believe. So there's quite a bit of unfortunate things that happened in the St. Louis area today involving flooding, and we do have a tab that I have open for that. Probably the most bothersome thing to me that I have heard so far on that is there was an animal shelter, and they apparently lost all the puppies. So they said the adult dogs made it, but the puppies did not. And so that's really, really sad. That's actually part of the report that I have open. You just got to be ready for this kind of stuff. And again, don't let anybody tell you how prepared you are, how prepared you're not. Don't let them tell you what your capabilities are or aren't, because I'm telling you, I've done some pretty crazy things in my life, both good and bad. And I've told the story before about my car. I had a 1978 LTD2. And that would be a Ford. And I love that car. Favorite car that I personally own. That is to this day my favorite car. That thing was just a tank, and it was awesome. And my best friend at the time had a set of rims that I wanted for my car. Now, I only had two. I say a set. He only had a pair. And I really wanted them. Mainly because they had big, huge tires on them. And I brought them home one day. Had them in the trunk of my car, strapped down, My dad looked at me. And he goes, "Don't tell me you're going to put those rims on that car." My dad could tell just by a glance. My dad knew. "What do you mean?" He goes, "You do know that those are Chevy rims, right?" "Yeah." He's like, "You do know the bolt pattern doesn't line up, right?" "Yeah." "Then how are you going to put them on your car?" "You'll see." So he shook his head and walked inside. I got out the jacked up my car, took the wheels off, back wheels. I put the lug nuts on, threaded the lug nuts on, just so that the end of the lug was at the flush with the nut. And I took his hammer, a hammer, one of his hammers. It was a ball peen, but it was kind of a heavy ball peen. And I just tapped all of those studs out just a little bit. And got the rim up on there, bolted it down, and it damn well felt like it bolted down flush to me. Cool. So I moved back over to the other side, start going about the process on that side, and Dad comes walking out because he done seen that done with one side and let the car down. So he had to see this. So he comes out and he's looking at me and he goes, "You're going to lose a wheel, son. You're going to lose a wheel. Damn idiot." He walks back in. I was stubborn. I was hard-headed. And, I was stupid for what I was doing. But to answer the question, whether or not I ever lost a wheel, nope. Didn't have problem one. Didn't have problem one. I am not saying what I did was smart. I am not telling you to do what I did because it's stupid. But I did it, and I did it successfully. And considering how I drove that damn car, yeah, if I was going to lose a rim, I'd have lost a rim. Never did. Never did. So, it's one of those things that I'm not necessarily saying that doing stupid things is going to work in your benefit. But don't let other people prevent you from moving forward. Because they'll damn well do it for many different reasons. Either they don't know better themselves, or they might be envious because you do know. There's a myriad of reasons why others would want to step in your way to prevent you from doing something that they can't. Don't let folks do that to you. That's basically what I'm saying. Because they'll damn well do it. If you let people put you in a box, they'll do it. They'll be happy to do it. Because, see, then, in their mind, in some warped sense, they now control you because you're in that box they built you in. It's a warped sense, but it is what it is. Okay, let's go over some of the stuffs in the news. Bring you guys along. Yeah, Ukraine to ask for free gas. So let's read the article and then we'll have a chat. Ukraine will ask the U.S. for natural gas deliveries on the same principle as applied on weapons and ammunition, Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal said on Tuesday. This gas lend-lease will be needed for the coming winter, he said. Meanwhile, the European Union has imposed gas rationing. The government of Ukraine has decided to apply to the government of the United States of America to provide our state with a gas lend-lease for a stable heating season, Shmyhal, I don't know, announced during a cabinet meeting, according to a video posted on his Telegram channel. Preparations for the most difficult winter in our history continue, and we're looking for all possible tools to be ready for any scenario, he added. Yeah, so are we, man. So are we. While Shmyhal did not elaborate on how the proposed arrangement would work, his use of the term lend-lease suggests that Kiev expects to get deliveries of U.S. liquefied natural gas for free. The U.S. has long sought to sell its LNG on the European market, but it could not compete with the Russian gas on price. Washington currently sends millions of dollars worth of weapons and ammunition to Ukraine over a World War II-era scheme dusted off in April. Shmyhal's proposal comes as a state-owned gas company, Naftogaz, has defaulted on its bonds and requested from the government in Kiev to take full responsibility for raising the funds needed to import natural gas for the upcoming heating season. However, former Ukrainian Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko said on Monday accused Naftogaz of embezzlement. The company is engaging in the scam of the century, asking for billions to buy gas even though Ukraine doesn't need it and may even be running a surplus, claimed Tymoshenko, who headed the U.S.-backed cabinet in 2007 to 2010 and now sits in the parliament as the head of the Fatherland Party. I paused because I find something very interesting with her party name. And I don't know. I know that I'm not supposed to be this way. I get it. But she's got Nazi written all over her. She's the head of the Fatherland Party. Ringing any bells? Man, we need to stay clear of this country. We need to stay so damn far clear of this country, it's unreal. But nope, we're smack in the middle of it. And why? I don't know. The only thing that I can figure out, and I've heard this tossed up a couple of times here and there, is that Ukraine has got Biden, both Joe and Hunter, by the nads. That there is something that he's got that would just... I don't know. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know what it is. But there is, for some reason, why we have to dump everything into this country, even if it means the demise of our own. And of course, you know, I do entertain the thought of it's all a set-up scheme to take the nations down. And I can't find anything to disprove that one yet. This is insane. And we're watching it all just happen right in front of us. I mean, they are literally talking about now. Okay, people have had their energy cost in the United States more than double. And to my knowledge, that's been the case for both natural gas and electricity. So now they claim, by the way, that that rise in cost has to do with supply issues, has to do with bigger demands and all that. Well, now, if we're trying to heat another country, I would say that's going to add to the demand quite dramatically. So what's going to happen to our cost? It's going to go through the roof. And I want you to remember that while you're paying that obnoxious price to keep enough heat to stay alive, the gas that would normally be there to make it more affordable for you is being sent for free. Oh, I know it's a lend-lease. Oh, I know all about that. It's pretty much just like the IMF loans. They don't ever expect them to be paid back. That's not the intent for them to be paid back. The intent for them is to be able to take resources, to take ownership because of the default on the agreement. That's how the whole IMF scheme works. This is insane. There has to be something. I know there's a million people that's got a million answers for this. You know, convention of states, national divorce, civil war. Of course, that's an option. I'm at a loss. I don't have any suggestions that I could make without fearing the repercussions of those suggestions. And I'm pretty resourceful usually. I don't think that any of the legal or avenues that are within the framework, if you will, I don't think that any of those would make a difference. And in fact, I think that many of those have been put in place so that they can continue doing whatever they want to do, but keep us thinking that there's some hope if we just keep coming back. And I think that's what voting is much of. I think it's a false hope that they give people that, oh, this time we're going to get it. We're going to get our person in, our person going to fix everything, and how did that work out? And the crazy thing is a lot of the people that fell for it the first time around are falling for it right now. I'm watching them. People are just absolutely falling for it, lock, stock, and barrel. Oh, now this time, he's going to fire this person, and this person, and this person, and this person. Didn't he say that the first time? Didn't he say that the first time, that when he got in there, he was going to drain the swamp? His whole damn campaign was around draining the swamp, and he didn't drain one damn person. Not one person. But you got people out there now that are wanting to show for him again. And, oh, Trump 2024. It's frustrating. Because he is part of the problem. And I have a hard time just sitting here watching the cast of Idiocracy cheer on a man that has no more care for you than Zelensky has for you. And the only way that people think otherwise is because he feeds into their egos. That's where we're supposed to be better. Individually, personally, we're supposed to be better. We're not supposed to fall for that. You know, when we see things like ego and pride, we're supposed to turn away from it, not take part in it. A lot of people have a problem understanding that. We're not supposed to be full of ego and pride. And it blows my mind the people that are full of ego and pride and will sit there and try to tell you about what the good book has to say. The channel today that did that. Yet, many of his videos starts out with him blowing by in a car. Ego and pride. But wants to tell everybody else they're doing it wrong. Be careful. Be very, very careful of who you let lead you. And I would say not to let anybody lead you except for the Father. That would be my advice. Because the moment that you get tied up into mankind, it's human nature. It's just part of our nature. For us to grab on to what it is that we can see, what it is that's right before us. It seems much easier for many people to grab that than what it is to have that faith. And the understanding that it's what you can't see. Many times, that's the better option. Careful. I don't get it. Ever since I've been doing this, I've been promoting that you work this stuff out. I mean, I'm more than happy to assist you with ideas, different options, but you have to make these decisions because you're the one that knows your situation. I can't do that. I can ask you questions and stuff like that, but then see, I'm working with you on a personal basis. It's not like I'm just giving blanket advice. You know, when you work with people on a personal basis, it's a much different thing. Vaping. That started out as much of a personal relationship in a sense with other individuals because, and then it got taken over by people just wanting to make money. But the way it started out was that we would personally, in fact, I was one of the people. They had like these video networks, okay. And people that were interested in vaping, they could just log on to this website or go to their, and there would be us. I was one of them that did it. And there would be us, and we would be doing, we'd be talking about vaping. Most of the time we'd have music on the background. We'd just be hanging out, talking to people. But the real purpose for us to be there was that if somebody came along that wanted to get into vaping or had questions about vaping, that we could answer them on a personal level. And anytime, and I've helped countless people quit smoking. And I had always set down the same thing every time. What do you smoke and how much? First question. What do you smoke and how much? And then from there, in talking with them, I was able to tailor for them an experience that would be the least like a switch than anything, because vaping is not the same as smoking. Now, with the new nicotine they got, the Salt Nic, it's much closer, much closer. But when we started out with it old school, we just had the base Nic, and no, there's a delay, okay? When you take a drag on a cigarette, there are a ton of chemicals in that cigarette. Some of those chemicals that are in there are to increase the speed and the rate in which your body takes on the chemicals that's in that tobacco, the nicotine and all the other 5 billion things that they add to it, okay? So in other words, when you take a puff off a cigarette, you can feel an instantaneous relief. And any smoker can tell you that. That first drag, especially like the first drag in the morning, first drag after work, something like that is just like, this is the best feeling in the world, I'm telling you. It is. It's just an unbelievable release, okay? You don't have that with regular base Nick. It's not there, okay? And that's a hard thing to transition. There you go. There's the word, to transition. So what I would do when I personally tailored somebody's, nicotine level, so to speak, is I would always make it high. And I would explain to them, okay, your nicotine level's a little bit high. So when you take a puff, you're not going to have that instantaneous relief, right? But be careful, because if you keep on puffing and puffing, you're going to over-nick yourself. And next thing you know, you're going to have a lump in your throat. You might get a little upset stomach. You could even get sick. Just throw up. I mean, not sick. But of course, lightheaded and stuff like that. So it was all about learning when and how much and stuff like that you needed to take puffs off the thing, And so when you could work with somebody individually, one-on-one like that, you could make it a no big deal thing, right? But vaping exploded in popularity. I mean, just exploded. And there were tons of shops opening up everywhere because it was very profitable. And now you didn't have people that were interested in other people making better health choices, which is why we were doing it. You have people wanting to make a buck. And unfortunately, they spoiled it. Now it became about the masses. It became about, it wasn't no more questions being asked. Somebody would go into a vape shop and, all of a sudden they were pushing this $100 mod in their face and this and that and getting them into things that they weren't ready to get into. And then the people, even if they did walk out with something, they gave up. Because it was more than that they were willing to take on. When all they needed was a simple little bitty pod device or something very, very simple just to get some nicotine to start out with, to get used to it. No. These people wanted to make the big bucks in that first sale. You need this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And they took it home. Next thing you know, they can't get it to work right. And then they give up. And these people didn't care because they already made the money off the products they sold. And it's a shame. It's a shame that that's what it became. Money spoils everything. That's a fact. Money spoils everything. And like I said, talked about earlier, about everybody's got their limit of people, like, say, subscribers before they go off the deep end, if you will. Everybody's got the number. I've got a number. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea what it is. I don't think it would be 100,000, I'll tell you that much. Because I'm a realist. And I know having 100,000 subscribers is one hell of a far cry away from being a household name. I got enough common sense to know that. But price is the same kind of thing, I have to say everybody's got a price. And I can't even put myself out of there. No matter how much I want to, I'd be lying to do that. Because I damn well have a price. But it depends for what. There isn't a price that I'd turn my back on God for. That I can assure you. That I can assure you. Because I've already done it. I've already been in that position. I've walked away from good money because it wasn't right. So that I already know. When it comes to him, I'm not jeopardizing that relationship. But let's lessen stakes a little bit here. What about the show? What about the news show? Do I have a price? Do I have a price that I would say, okay, I'm done, and never come back on again? You damn well believe. Damn well I do. Somebody wants to give me $1 million, I'm gone. I am gone. And it's not because I don't care about you. It's not because I don't love you. It's because there isn't a damn thing that I know of that I offer that's so extra special that you need me. And in fact, I don't want you to need me. I want you to need yourself and the Father. I want you to need... I want you to become independent. I don't want you to need me. Or anybody other than the Father. And I lost, hang on. I don't know if I lost complete ear. That's weird. I don't hear anything in that ear now. 1 second while I beat on stuff a little bit. But the odd thing was, okay, I'm getting something now, but the odd thing was at the same time, my ear popped. My ears popped. I guess there must be a change in the barometric pressure right now or something. But my ears popped, and at that very same time, I guess my right headphone quit working. Anyway. Okay, let me quit yakking. Damn, I'm nowhere, and we're 10 to 9. The hell's wrong with me tonight? Let's see. U.S. says coming weeks... Oops. Stay there. U.S. says coming weeks crucial for Ukraine. That's interesting. Ukraine might only have a few weeks left if it hopes to take back territories controlled by Russia, Chairman of the House Armed Services Committee Adam Smith told Politico's National Security Daily on Monday. The Ukrainian forces would need longer-range weapons like tactical missiles and strike drones to change the tides of battle, he said, in the wake of his visit to Kiev. The approaching winter would turn the ongoing conflict between Moscow and Kiev into a war of attrition that would only benefit Russia, the news outlet said, adding that Kiev has asked the American congressional delegation to convince Washington to urgently send aid. Help them now as much as possible. The next 3 to 6 weeks are crucial, Smith told the outlet. According to the congressman, the Ukrainian government is willing to reach a peace agreement with Moscow, but still wants its territories back, particularly those in the south. Russian troops have seized control over Ukraine's southern Kherson region and most of the neighboring Zaporozhye region soon after the start of the military operation in February. Local officials in the two regions have considered holding referendums on joining Russia since then. Kiev has repeatedly stated that its goal to take back all of its territories, and earlier in July, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba said that his nation's goal in the conflict was to restore our territorial integrity and full sovereignty in the east and the south of Ukraine. But this is not the first time Kiev has indicated that it wants to see the end of the conflict before cold temperatures set in. In late June, President Vladimir Zelensky told the G7 summit that he wanted to see the conflict end by the onset of winter, according to Reuters. Isn't it kind of interesting how they act like they can kind of pick and choose that? I don't know. I just thought that was a little strange, kind of a weird attitude to have. Hang on. Been here yakking. I need nicotine. And this does hit me pretty quick because this is Salt Nick that I'm vaping on. Normally you only see Salt Nick in like, well, I ain't got the big thing up. In, like for pods. Yeah, I got mine in here. I showed this the other day. Normally the Salt Nick is for like little ones like that. And it's like really high. This is like 50 milligrams per milliliter. Like really high. This that I'm vaping that's in here is only 6 milligrams per milliliter, but it's that Salt Nick that hits your system real fast. I don't know if I imagine somebody sells the like regular juice. I'm going to say regular juice, but with the salt in it. The reason I put it that way is, to me, pods are different. And they are. They're a totally different world than this. This is called direct lung vaping. When you see people look like a freight train, yeah, that's direct lung vaping. To wear a device like I showed you, they call that mouth to lung, MTL, mouth to lung. You would hit this like you would a cigarette. You would draw it into your mouth and then inhale it into your lungs and then blow it out. You don't do that with this. With this, it's like smoking a bong. For instance, you just take it straight into your lungs. Which is why I'm pretty good at it, because I had a lot of practice during my teenage years. What? I had a really cool alien bong. I can't remember if it Walmart, Target, somebody. They had this tall plastic green alien cup. And it stood... can't see both my arms, damn it. Stood probably about that tall. And it was a green alien. And it had a star coming out of its head. Well, I bought one not because I wanted to use it for a cup, but because I knew that would make one hell of a cool bong. And it did. Worked well. There again, so did the gas mask rig that we had back then, but I'd have to pass today. It would kill me. Okay, continuing on. Russia issues rebuke to Israel. And this is something I thought was kind of important just to put a note in the back of our heads. Moscow considers Israel's anti-Russian stance on the Ukrainian conflict regrettable, according to Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova. During a TV talk show appearance on Tuesday, she noted that West Jerusalem's recent rhetoric was absolutely unconstructive and unobjective. Relations between Russia and Israel have soured since the launch of Moscow's military operation in Ukraine, and Zakharova drew attention to the fact that this did not happen by itself. In recent months, we have heard absolutely unconstructive and, most importantly, biased rhetoric from Tel Aviv, Zakharova stated. She noted that anti-Russian assessments coming from various levels of authority in Israel raised serious questions in Moscow, especially since they were being framed in an exclusively pro-Ukrainian manner. And this was not in terms of supporting the Ukrainian people, but only in support of the Kiev regime, the diplomat noted, adding that the rhetoric was absolutely in tune with the strange and wild voice of the West. Zakharova also emphasized that the impulse to complicate bilateral relations with Israel did not come from Russia. When we now hear comments from the leadership of this country that some of Russia's actions on the bilateral track may affect relations, I didn't bring you guys back. I'm sorry. Let me see where I was at. I would like to ask if these same people do not think that their actions and statements over these months have already affected bilateral relations, she said. The spokeswoman's statements come after Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid ordered his country's foreign ministry to prepare a set of reactionary measures in the event of the Russian branch of the Jewish agency being shut down. The Prime Minister warned on Sunday that the closure of the quasi-governmental agency, which promotes the immigration of people with Jewish heritage to Israel, would have a grave impact on ties between Moscow and West Jerusalem. In the Tuesday interview, Zakharova stated that the fate of the organization in Russia was in the hands of Russia's Justice Ministry and was solely a matter of law. Last week, a Moscow court said it had received a formal request from the Justice Ministry to liquidate the Russian branch of the agency, citing alleged violations of local laws related to data storage and protection. A pre-trial hearing on the case is set to be held on Thursday. The Kremlin has also insisted that the situation around the Jewish agency was a matter of law and has warned against politicizing the issue. Indeed, there are questions for the Jewish agency regarding adherence to Russian laws, but this situation should not be politicized or projected onto the entirety of Russian-Israeli relations, said Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. Relations between Moscow and West Jerusalem have considerably worsened since Russia launched its military operation, yada yada. You know that drill. But something to pay attention to, because as I'm sure you're well aware, Russia has been kind of at odds with, or not Russia, Iran has kind of been at odds with Israel on a new level here as of recent. And considering that, Russia is definitely not warming up to Israel right now, and have, to some degree, warmed up to Iran, this is stuff we might want to pay attention to. I know a lot of people, when you start talking about, say, Iran and Israel, it's like they focus on just those two nations, and it's not going to be just those two nations. There are going to be other nations involved, too. So that's what we need to focus on. There's a lot of people that automatically out of the gate want to say, oh, Israel's going to stomp Iran. I don't know, because I don't think Iran's going to do it alone, for one. And I think if Iran does something, I think Iran's going to do something big. Big, big. I do not think Iran is foolish enough to sit there and try to trade punches with Israel. On a bigger level than what is already happening. It is happening in like a proxy sense, pretty much. And it's not really proxy, but at the same time, it's happening in Syria mostly. So, I think we better keep an eye on this. I think that's a situation that could get ugly real quick. And then here, talking about Israel and Iran here, Israel may strike Iran over atomic program, which is why I was just going into all of that. Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz suggested his country could launch a strike against Iran's nuclear program, calling it a global problem at a conference on Tuesday. He also criticized the 2015 nuclear deal abandoned by the U.S. in 2018 and the possibility of its revival, though the negotiations to that effect don't seem to be going anywhere. Iran is a global problem, and it's not just Israel's private problem, Gantz said in Jerusalem during a conference hosted by Israel's Channel 13. We are able to seriously harm and delay the nuclear program, he added, when asked if Israel was capable of delaying Iran's progress towards creating an atomic weapon or stopping it outright. I think they're late on that. I think Iran's had them. I think they've had them for a little while. I do not think that they're going to prevent anything. I think it's already been done. I do think that they will use that as a reason to strike if they decide to do so. But I think the program's already there. I think the program's already been in action for a while, and I think they've probably already at least got a few nukes. I'm pretty sure. I said the same thing about North Korea. I had a lot of people tell me I was nuts about that. Oh, Kim Jong-un couldn't do it. And guess what? They were sitting on nukes, just like I said. I think the same true with Iran. They're just not going to be up in everybody's face saying we got nukes. They are trying to play both sides of it. And, I can't tell you whether or not they would continue to try to develop them if we would have stayed in the JCPOA. I can't tell you whether they would or not. But what I can tell you is they were much more welcoming about the, what do you call them? People that would go in and check everything, make sure, like the IAEA and stuff like that, to make sure that everything was up to par and on stuff. They weren't building nuclear weapons and all that stuff. Now, I mean, I don't know if they ever turned the cameras back on. Last I knew, there were some cameras they shut off. They had started enriching uranium. I don't think they ever claimed to have actually enriched it to 90%, but from what I understand, there's been plenty of that going on. So, this entire time they're sitting there making their program larger and enriching uranium and very possibly building devices. And it may not have happened. May not have happened. I can't say whether or not they would have or not. But I know the difference in between guaranteeing it will happen and taking a chance. To me, taking the chance would be a smarter opportunity than just guaranteeing that they're going to do it. I view this stuff a little differently than a lot of people. I understand and I respect sovereignty. It's not about me. It's about that nation. And as long as the people of a nation aren't being held against their will, like the ones in the U.S. are, as long as people in nations aren't being held against their will, being forced to do things that are unspeakable, it's nobody's business how they choose to live. If you have a country that has beliefs that women should have to wear burqas and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Hey, if they're not saying I want out, screaming I want out, and being held back from leaving, who am I to say what is right and wrong for them? As long as they aren't being abused, as long as I can't see humanitarian crisis happening right in front of my eyes, and I'm sorry, wearing a burqa is not a humanitarian crisis. Who am I to say? Who am I to get involved? Unfortunately, that's not the way a lot of the world sees it. They think that everybody needs to live in their eyes, how they see things, and that's how everyone else should live. And that's largely been our international policy. That chicken's gonna come home to roost someday, my dad would say. And I think it's about to come home. Dr. Doom predicts severe recession in the U.S. This here says an eminent economist, Nouriel Roubini, has warned of an impending severe recession as the U.S. government tries to fight against a 4 decades high inflation rate. I think there are many reasons why we are going to have a severe recession and a severe debt and financial crisis, Roubini told Bloomberg on Monday. The U.S. economy is in a period of stagflation while debt ratios are historically high, Roubini explained, suggesting that the same applies to other developed nations worldwide. The idea that this is going to be short and shallow is totally delusional, he added. I would agree. Roubini, a New York University professor and chief executive of Roubini Macro Associates, was dubbed Dr. Doom by Wall Street for predicting the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009, or through 2009. Economists have been debating whether a recession will hit the U.S. economy this year as the Federal Reserve has been trying to rein in soaring inflation by hiking its benchmark interest rate. U.S. inflation hit 9.1% in June, the highest rate in more than 40 years. I wonder what they're running over there. That sounded badass. I don't think it's Fair Week, is it? U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen earlier denied that the American economy was in recession, saying that the nation was instead going through a necessary and appropriate slowdown. So, I think this guy's a lot closer on target than what old Yeller Yellen is saying. Hang on a second. You would think I should know these things about my town, and I don't. Oh yeah, that's what's going on. July 26th. What is going on? That's what I suspected it was. The ITPA tractor and truck pull. Okay. That's what I suspected was going on by that sound. Because I heard one badass engine. And, it didn't sound... We've got a... What is it? Quarter-mile dirt track or half... I don't know if it's quarter-mile, half-mile. We got a dirt track here, though, an oval dirt track. So when they do the stock car races, it doesn't sound like a drag car going down a quarter-mile strip, right? It sounds like stock car races going in a circle. So this sounded like a drag car going down a quarter-mile strip. So that's why I suspected that it was the tractor pull. Oh, let's see. I don't know if you guys can hear it when they get it going or not. So they are kind of loud. And we're not super far away from the track, but we're fair distance. Let's see. Flash flooding causes water rescues and road closures across St. Louis region. This is kind of crazy. How bad this hit. Says here, heavy rains and flash flooding impacted the St. Louis region Tuesday. At 3:30 a.m., first responders blocked off all lanes of eastbound Interstate 64 near Grand. It reopened just before 7 a.m. Tuesday on Interstate 55. Drivers were diverted off the highway before Potomac. Eastbound Interstate 44 is the third interstate affected. All lanes were closed at Hampton. Just past 6 a.m., the St. Louis Fire Department reported several cars stranded on Interstate 44 near Jefferson Avenue. Drivers need to find an alternate route on eastbound Interstate 70 near Natural Bridge and Jennings Station Road. In addition, Interstate 70 was closed in both directions near Mid-Rivers Mall in St. Charles. Corporal Dallas Thompson with the Missouri Highway Patrol recommended drivers to not travel on interstates in St. Louis and St. Charles counties until after the morning commute to allow the water to recede. Gosh. Heck, got 842 more pictures. There's somebody that was happy with a camera. Several streets in University City, Maplewood, St. Louis County, and St. Louis City were deemed impassable. News 4 Damon Arnold spotted several cars that were tucked in the flooded roads with water up to their door handles. The National Weather Service said the area broke the all-time daily rainfall record from August of 1915 as 8.06 inches of rainfall was observed as of 7 a.m. Crews rescued 6 people and 6 dogs after 18 flooded homes in the 2700 block of Hermitage Avenue near Ellendale. Roughly 15 residents chose to shelter in place. Andrew Schaefer rescued his family and dogs from his home as water seeped into his basement like a waterfall. I carried all 3 of my dogs, 3 kids, and wife out. This happened before about 7 years ago, Schaefer said. He told News 4 he is heading back to his neighborhood to help others trapped. Good man. The parking lot at the reserve at Winding Creek Apartments was completely submerged with water, trapping residents. Roughly 15 to 16 were trapped inside as rescue boats brought residents to safety. The Westover Apartments in University City, residents were evacuated. The complex's parking lot looked like a river and cars were submerged. The Maryland Heights Community Center has opened as an emergency shelter for residents. The Heights Community Center in Richmond Heights on Dale Avenue opened its doors to residents displaced and is a shelter for those needing to stay overnight. The University City School District is advising families who are displaced by flooding to go to relief sites at Barbara C. Jordan, Pershing, or Brittany Woods. I stayed quiet to see if you guys could hear it. Let's see. St. Charles County residents were urged to stay home Tuesday morning after 911 dispatchers were overwhelmed with the amount of water rescue calls. That's what I woke up to. Well, it didn't wake me up, don't misunderstand me, but when I woke up, that notification was just coming in from from them urging people to stay home. Stray Paws Rescue in St. Peter's told News 4 all their puppies drowned, their adult dogs are reportedly okay, and the shelter is asking for donations. The Gateway Arch will be closed all day due to the flooding caused by record rainfall. Anyone with a pre-purchased ticket to the tram ride to the top or documentary movie will be refunded as soon as possible. In the Metro East, Scott Air Force Base announced a delay opening. The campus of Southern Illinois University Edwardsville posted a statement explaining they would be closed until further notice. St. Clair County Animal Services was flooded and dogs were standing in water. They are asking people to help foster a dog or cat for at least a week. Metro Transit advised riders may see up to 2 hours of delays for the Metrobus, Metrolink, and the Call a Ride service. Metrolink station shuttles were transporting riders by bus between the following Metrolink stations due to flooding: Lambert Airport and Central West End stations, and University City, Big Bend, and Central West End stations. A train at the Delmar Loop station has sustained significant damage. Metro says normal Metrolink service may not be restored for 2 weeks. For more on Metro-related delays, you can click there. The Muni canceled the Tuesday night performance of Legally Blonde, the musical, due to flooding at Forest Park. The rescheduled performance will take place on August 1st at 8:15 p.m. The Muni said all tickets for Tuesday night's show will be automatically rescheduled for the August performance. So, kind of crazy, really. Very serious flooding situation in Missouri and parts of Illinois. This just makes it even more apparent as to why we need to be prepared, why we not only need to be prepared, but we also need to be able to bug out. How many of these people would have saw that coming? Probably none of them. Probably none of them. And while this, hopefully for them, isn't going to be any type of a long-term SHTF, it surely is one heck of an SHTF. And it would sure make things a lot easier if you didn't have to wait around or deal with the Red Cross or anything like that. If you didn't have, if you were squared away. If you were squared away, you could throw your stuff in the back of your vehicle and go head to a campground and say, hey, we're going to go spend a few days at a campground. Why not? You know, there are several options that you open up for yourself if you are prepared to be able to deal with the situation yourself and not have to wait again for something like Red Cross or something like that, because that's not all that is cracked up to be either. You know, I think a lot of times they'll give you a little bit of money or something like that, and that's pretty much about it. Not in many cases enough. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anything is a help. Don't misunderstand me. But usually it's not enough to really get you taken care of, but it'll get you in a place to stay for the night and stuff like that. And that's if you just go to a motel or something like that. If you used it wisely and used the suggestion, like I said, go take a few days camping or something, you could considerably lessen the cost it would cost you per night stay, you know what I mean? And, you can turn it into a fun camping trip. I don't know if you can hear that at all or not. I turned up the mic like real super loud. It's kind of cool. I like it. It's kind of cool. I love hearing mean engines. I love high performance engines. Let's see. Okay, I guess we're to headlines. Let me have a few sips of coffee and some vapes and we'll get done with this. I really didn't expect to be on remotely this long tonight. I didn't think I had a lot to say, but I guess, many times it's that way. I don't think I have a lot to say, and I wound up I do. Oh, man. Fun times. When's the demo derby? Probably Friday. I was right, Friday. Combine Demolition Derby will be Thursday night. Tomorrow night, well, there's a rabbit show. Cheers band. Oh, I guess there's a race. Okay. I guess I'm going to assume that's a stock car race that they're going to have tomorrow night. And then Saturday will be, I guess they're going to have a rodeo. That's interesting. Never knew they had rodeos. They didn't used to, I don't think. That's cool. Sunday they have a pedal tractor pull. That's cool. 4-H has a tractor garden driving contest. So, sounds like fun. It's the county fair where they have the county fair here in town. I'm getting all kinds of dings dongs. Ding ding da dongs. Ooh, an earthquake. Whoa, a 7.1. Hang on. Let me see where that's at. Philippines. Luzon, Philippines. 7.1 earthquake. Okay. There's Sputnik. They just broke it. Let's see. Do the headlines. Get the heck out of here. Alright. Taiwan holds drills aimed at China. Ukrainian energy giant debt plan is rejected, says media. Germans pessimistic about the future, says research. Japan executes mass murderer. EU members agree to gas rationing, says the DPA. Ukrainian drone strikes Russian border checkpoint, says governor. EU gas prices surge amid fears of Russian supply cuts. Macron attempts to allay Paris Olympic fears. Eurozone rakes in profits from frozen Russian assets. Russia to quit International Space Station after 2024. That's kind of also something else to note. That really is kind of a big deal. I mean, I know they got their own thing going on, but I don't think that they were necessarily disconnected from the International Space Station program if it wouldn't be for all the other stuff going on. Russia regrets Israel. Oh, I covered that one. New long COVID symptoms are revealed. Ukraine's military morale in decline, says New York Times. A Russian-born billionaire dumps Musk investments after wife's affair. A Polish mercenary struck by missiles in Donbass, says Russia. EU reaches deal on slashing gas consumption. Ukrainian grain center launched in Turkey, says Moscow. Hungary sets up defense agency amid Ukrainian conflict. Kremlin praises foiling of Ukrainian plot to hijack planes. Austrian politician wants Ukrainian oligarch sanctioned. McDonald's reveals cost of Russia exit. Ugandan president comments on relations with Russia. Berlin confirms sending rocket systems to Ukraine. 3 peacekeepers killed in anti-UN protests. Ukrainian MP reveals scam of the century. Displaced Ukrainians returning to war zones, says the media. And Russia makes Bayraktar bid. I have no idea how to pronounce that. So, yeah, I couldn't even guess on that. Anyway, that's what I have. I don't see anything up there waiting on me, so I assume that I got everything covered for this evening. I am going to get off of here and take care of my manly duties, take the trash out, and head to bed. Exciting life, isn't it? Anyway, I am out of here. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. I hope to see you then. Hope you have a good night. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.